9 long, grueling months since their mission had gone catastrophically off course. Very good morning to you, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. You're watching News 9 and I'm Sriya Kundu here this morning to bring you all the latest updates and the top story of the day, which is Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore's homecoming to planet Earth. Now, NASA astronauts Butch Wilmore and Sunita Williams returned to Earth in a SpaceX Dragon capsule with a soft splashdown off Florida's coast. 9 months after their faulty Boeing Starliner craft upended what was to be a week-long stay on the International Space Station. Their return caps a protracted space mission that was fraught with uncertainty and technical troubles and turned a rare instance of NASA's contingency planning and the latest failures of Boeing's Starliner into a global spectacle.
We see main chutes cut. Nick, Alex, Butch,
April 27th, 2022, to the International Space Station on NASA's SpaceX Crew 4 mission. Last year is September 28th. So, yeah, a little bit about the Dragon Freedom capsule.
Dragon Freedom, to the far left there is NASA astronaut Butch Wilmore. And as you can see, the crew is suited up in their Space Indeed daytime, and you're beginning to see that plasma trail as Dragon re-enters the Earth's atmosphere. All of that is expected.
Coming from the WB-57 plane, that heat shield we can see doing magnificent work as it
deploys. This view coming from the WB-57 high altitude plane. And there you see it on your screen, drogue deployment.
Drogue descent rate nominal.
You can hear the crowd here.
Visual on 2 healthy drogues.
Continues to make its way back to planet Earth.
The mains are quite a bit larger. You'll be able to notice the difference on your screen once they deploy, and they continue to ensure that the Dragon spacecraft slows down even further. Big time this afternoon, and there we go.
We have visual on 4 healthy mains.
That view was from inside.
Freedom copy.
That view was from inside one of the buckets where the parachutes are located. So we see a great view there of the reefing on those parachutes. And as those main parachutes begin to inflate fully, 4 beautiful restraints as resting places for their arms. They were just in space moments ago. So their arms were able to float freely.
400 meters.
Florida.
And splashdown. Crew 9 back on Earth.
And SpaceX Freedom, splashdown. Good main release.
Copy splashdown. We see main chutes cut. Nick, Alex, Butch, Sunny, on behalf of SpaceX, welcome home.
Williams and Wilmore, 2 veteran NASA astronauts and retired U.S. Navy test pilots, had strapped inside their Crew Dragon spacecraft along with 2 other astronauts and undocked from the orbiting laboratory of the ISS to embark on a 17-hour trip to Earth. The 4-person crew, formerly part of NASA's Crew 9 astronaut rotation mission, atmosphere. Using Earth's atmosphere in 2 sets of parachutes, as we just showed you the visuals of, the craft showed its orbital speed of roughly 17,000 miles per hour to a soft 17 miles per hour at splashdown. Dressed in re-entry suits, boots and helmets, the astronauts were seen earlier on NASA's live footage laughing, hugging and posing for photographs with their colleagues from the station just shortly before they were shut in the capsule for 2 hours of final pressure, communications and seal tests. The astronaut pair had launched into space as Starliner's first crew in June for what was expected to be an 8-day test mission. But issues with Starliner's propulsion system had led to the cascading delays. Their return home culminating in a NASA decision last year to have them take a SpaceX craft back this year as a part of the agency's crew rotation schedule. Mission has captured the attention of US President Donald Trump, who in fact upon taking office in the month of January itself called for a quicker return of Wilmore and Williams and alleged without evidence that former President Joe Biden abandoned them on the ISS for political reasons. SpaceX CEO Elon Musk, a close advisor to Trump, echoed his call for an earlier return.
There we have it.
SpaceX's Crew Dragon is the United States' only orbital-class crew spacecraft, which Boeing had hoped its Starliner would compete with before the mission with Wilmore and Williams threw its development future into uncertainty. After the splashdown, the astronauts will be flown to their crew quarters at the space agency's Johnson Space Center in Houston for several days of health checks per routine for their astronaut returns before NASA flight surgeons approve that they can go home to their families. Now, this morning we are being joined by a panel of guests who we will be in fact discussing this extraordinary mission that we've seen, the extraordinary resilience and the marvelous grit from both these astronauts who were stuck in space for 9 months. But before that, ladies and gentlemen, let me quickly bring to you another ground report which explains the entire journey, which explains all the entire mission, the SpaceX mission, as well as the 9-month ordeal that the two astronauts went through.
Is from Chris Davenport with the Washington Post.
For Steve Stitch, you had mentioned your discussion.
Certainly a huge thank you to their families. When you think about Butch and Suni, they...
With that, let me just quickly introduce the panel joining us today. Ravi Kumar Gupta, former Director DRDO, and Amritanshu Vajpayee, National Convener Saptarshi India Asteroid Search Campaign. Very good morning to you, gentlemen, and thank you for joining us here on News 9 this morning to, in fact, discuss this marvelous journey that we have, in fact, watched and kept a very close track of. Mr. Gupta, I'll come to you first. Ever since this mission began in the month of June last year, and it was only a day, it took almost just a matter of 24 hours here on planet Earth, when there were realizations with regards to certain faulty and mismanaged appearances that were bringing up disruptions that were coming up in the Boeing Starliner. And post that, we saw this 9-month ordeal. As a scientist yourself, what would you say? What is the headspace that an astronaut goes through when they're stuck in space for 9 months?
As such, space travel is a very risky affair. It is full of a lot of uncertainties. In spite of a lot of research taking place, and we have a huge voluminous data available, all kinds of safety measures are in place. But in spite of that, space travel will continue to remain a risky affair. And astronauts are trained to handle all kinds of eventualities that may arise. And in spite of that, there may be many unknown eventualities, as in this case, in spite of all testing and repeated testing and evaluation, the Starliner failed in certain aspects. It could successfully take the astronauts safely to the International Space Station, and docking could take place. But then they realized that some of the thrusters were not working, which implies that when it goes on its return journey, there is a likelihood of malfunction. It may not be to control the speed and the descent the way it should be done, leading to risk to the life of the astronauts. And therefore, they decided to postpone the return. Matter of fact is that as such, staying in space is a very tough job, mainly from 3 angles. First is the mental health. You have to remain in contact of very few people. After all, human being is a social animal. We like to mix around. But matter of fact is that there you have just a couple of people around and confined space. You can't move around much, and you have to live there in an environment of uncertainty. They were not knowing that they will be returning. It may take 9 weeks, it may take 9 months, it may take even more time. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mr. Gupta, we'll come back to you and we'll discuss this in greater depth. Let me just quickly, before that, take our viewers through this press conference that took place right after splashdown by the NASA astronauts discussing this very SpaceX Dragon capsule journey that both these astronauts made. Let's quickly listen into what was said by them on the success of this very journey.
For the landing that you guys just witnessed today, there's a number of things that we look at, a number of factors, weather being one of them. You saw great weather today. In addition, we look at the readiness of the recovery team to make sure they're ready to go. We look at the handover time on orbit between the incoming crew and the departing crew to make sure there's enough time for activities to be accomplished before the departing crew leaves. We do have the benefit of having NASA astronaut Don Pettit remaining on board. He'll be coming home on Soyuz in April, and so he'll continue the handover with the crew.
Which is the keen interest in Butch and Suni. All 5 major television networks cut it.
The thing I think back of this whole time frame is how really resilient Butch and Suni were the whole time. I mean, they launched on what was going to be a short test flight with the crew flight test vehicle with Boeing, and then they moved very quickly into station increment operations, and they became seamlessly part of the International Space Station. And they did that because they're experienced astronauts, and we had prepared, right? We had flown gloves for them to do spacewalks, and we had flown a lot of components for them. So I think that shows the adaptability of crew members. And if I think forward to exploration and maybe some harsh missions to the Martian surface someday or back to the moon, the adaptability of crew members, changing the timeline for their return.
The mission for Steve Stitch. You had mentioned your discussion.
Certainly a huge thank you to their families. When you think about Butch and Suni, they enjoyed their time on station. They got to do spacewalks and they got to do lots of cool science and things like that. Their families are the ones that really, kudos to them for being resilient in a planned short duration flight now turning into a long duration. And I think back of when they went into quarantine. They went into quarantine in the April timeframe for the early May launch that we had for crewed flight tests. So the families, a huge thank you to them. I'm sure the reunion is going to be wonderful with the families.
And I'm just wondering, has Boeing given you a 100%?
Agency, we work for the president, and who's ever there, we work for them. We had an input from that office. We took a look at it. And, our job is to take all the inputs we get and operate as successful and safely as we can. And that's what we did for this administration, and that's what we would do for any administration.
Of when the astronauts will be landing back here in Houston and
we're certainly looking at Starliner very carefully. We're in the process of looking at that vehicle, looking at the helium system. We've got some candidate seals that we're going to replace. We'll get into some testing here over the summer timeframe with what we call an integrated doghouse at White Sands. So we're looking at that.
It's okay. It shows the flexibility of our.
What we did was we tried to look for opportunities to bring the crew back when it was safe to do so. And, we always had a lifeboat, a way for them to come home all the way back to Starliner. If you remember during the Starliner crewed flight test mission, we said if there were an emergency during part of that mission, we considered the thrusters, the service module thrusters, good enough to bring the crew back then. We then transitioned to the Crew 8 vehicle for a temporary time frame until Crew 9 arrived. So we always had a way to get the crew home safely should we need to. And then it really became, when is the right time? When is the right time to bring them back? And then when we had to swap over Dragon capsules from the new vehicle, which wasn't quite ready, we moved to Capsule 210. We figured this March timeframe was the timeframe to execute this direct handover that we just did. So,
Thank you, guys. This is probably for Sarah.
Gentlemen, coming back to you, Mr. Vajpayee, I would want to take my next question from you. While we're discussing all that had gone down wrong with the Boeing Starliner, but when we also speak of the SpaceX Dragon capsule mission that got them back home, it's not the first, definitely, but there were certain challenges that were, associated with this very 17-hour journey as well, when we were in fact hearing live the communication between the NASA scientists on ground and those station itself, there were certain checks that were being done, where there were certain, issues that had cropped up, for which there was also a little bit of a delay in the timing as to when they left from there, in the timing of the de-docking taking place. If you could just briefly take us through some of the challenges that are associated with this very travel and how big of a success it is that all four of these astronauts, especially Wilmore and Williams, coming back to Earth.
Good morning all and greetings of the day. So first of all, let me congratulate honestly the scientists of NASA and the entire astronomical and the space fraternity for
a big day for
successfully,
them and a big day for all of us. Yes.
Yeah, and definitely, as it is being said that tomorrow is the vernal equinox, and before the vernal equinox, the good news has definitely struck us. So this homecoming has brought good news for all of us. So now coming back to the topic, the question that you had asked, see, not only in the return, ever since the very inception, as Dr. Gupta has already given a brief insights into it, that ever since that launch was being started, this Dreamliner had run into problems. And even if you remember, when the first launch was slated in the month of May itself, I think the day was 6th May or like that, it could be confirmed. So it was cancelled after a problem with an oxygen valve was found in the rocket that was to launch that particular spacecraft into the orbit. Then again, it was followed by some sort of a helium leak and all those things. And then everything was delayed. Then finally, after all, in the first week of June, the launch date happened. And then we all know the story, cut short, that 288 days delay happened for the team of Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore. And now they are safely back. Now coming to the point that you raised, that while they were returning back, yes, there are a few, you can say, technological gaps that we really face as human beings, because right now there was a phase of about 6 to 7 minutes that was that you just hinted at, that is the communication blackout. That happens really when a spacecraft actually re-enters and into the Earth's atmosphere, and it's actually being caused by, technically speaking, a layer of ionized gas that we call as plasma, which is forming around that particular capsule due to the intense heat and friction after interacting with the atmosphere, and that interferes with the radio signal. So right now the research, Dr. Gupta will give more insights into it. The research also is going on with regards to using the laser guided sort of communication in the days to come. NASA is doing such sort of research, but while doing the course of the re-entry, they were re-entering at the supersonic speed from 17,000 miles per hour, and then making it into the, you can say, 50 to 60 kilometers per hour, and then going for a soft splashdown. Yes, definitely it was a roller coaster ride. And after all, as we know, of howsoever calculations we may do, it is a game of probabilities and possibilities which are infinite in nature. And you know, as we have a saying in Hindi that दूध का जला छाछ भी भूख भूख करके पीता है, and taking the cue from the disaster that had struck in the year 2003, I am taking you back to history, when a small our space shuttle Columbia actually disintegrated on February 1st, when Kalpana Chawla, you remember, and her team was re-entering into the atmosphere. And so what had happened was, a small piece of foam had foam insulation had broken off from the shuttle's external fuel tank, and it has struck the left wing, which had damaged that thermal protection system. So all those precautions were being taken, checks and rechecks were being done, because this mission suddenly had become larger than life in last
Absolutely.
9 months. It had not only caught the attention but also the imagination of the people, because it was definitely, this re-entry was going to inspire an entire generation of young scientists and all those budding astronomers and space experts in the days to come. So it was challenging, and yes, it has been successfully completed. Now it will take a little bit of recovery period for Sunita Williams and her
Definitely.
team.
We'll discuss that in greater depth, as to how the recovery process will be from here. But at this given point, I think you've summed it up very well. This mission had somewhere become
Once again,
larger than life, and it was an unusual chapter in spaceflight history that we have all been tracking for the past 9 months, and now with success having been achieved, let's quickly take you viewers through yet again those exact few moments when the touchdown took final lines of communication that was taking place between the NASA astronauts here at Houston, as well as the spacecraft and the 4 astronauts who were in the Dragon capsule.
Thumbs up and a wave. Can't get any better than that. On to the ship, we have a very special treat.
April 27th, 2022, to the International Space Station on NASA for a mission. Last year is September 28th. So, yeah, a little bit about the Dragon Freedom capsule.
Dragon Freedom. To the far left there is NASA astronaut Butch Wilmore. And as you can see, the crew is suited up in their Space Indeed daytime, and you're beginning to see that plasma trail as Dragon re-enters the Earth's atmosphere. All of that is expected.
Coming from the WB-57 plane. That heat shield we can see doing magnificent work as it
deploys. This view coming from the WB-57 high altitude plane. And there you see it on your screen, drogue deployment.
Drogue descent rate nominal.
You can hear the crowd here.
Visual on 2 healthy drogues.
Continues to make its way back to planet Earth.
The mains are quite a bit larger. You'll be able to notice the difference on your screen once they deploy, and they continue to ensure that the Dragon spacecraft slows down even further. Big time this afternoon, and there we go.
We have visual on 4 healthy mains.
That view was from inside.
Freedom copy.
That view was from inside one of the buckets where the parachutes are located. So we see a great view there of the reefing on those parachutes. And as those main parachutes begin to inflate fully, 4 beautiful points as resting places for their arms. They were just in space moments ago. So their arms were able to float freely.
400 meters.
Florida.
And splashdown. Crew 9 back on Earth.
And SpaceX Freedom, splashdown. Good main release.
Copy splashdown. We see main chutes cut. Nick, Alex, Butch, Sunny, on behalf of SpaceX, welcome home.
Well, with that, let me take you through the first words that have in fact been posted, or the statement that's coming from the White House as a reaction to this very successful feat for NASA, where Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore made it back to Earth. Let me quickly take you through that very post. As they've said, and they've mentioned in bold there, that a promise that was made has been kept. The exact lines that were read, that were written on that very post, I quote them: "A promise made, promise kept. President Trump had pledged to rescue the astronauts stranded in space for 9 months. Today they safely splashed down in the Gulf of America, thanks to Elon Musk, to SpaceX and to NASA." Dr. Gupta, with that, we in fact come back to you and come back to this very discussion. You know, Dr. Gupta, when we speak of this very mission, we have gone through the technicalities involved, the complications that had also come out within this very mission from the very beginning. But let's also now speak of the recovery process, because you also were mentioning this. It's not only a physical challenge, rather it's a mammoth task when we speak of the mental resilience that one has to go through to be stuck in space for 9 months, and then the recovery indeed takes a lot of time. So now from here, please help us understand, and just to simplify this for our viewers, what lies ahead for Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore in terms of the recovery process that is to begin now.
Definitely. See, just as we prepare an astronaut for the space travel, it's a long, long process of training and conditioning. In the same way, now it is a deconditioning process, a specifically laid down, lengthy process, step by step, to again make them adjust to the environment on the Earth, mentally as well as physically, physiologically. Mentally, of course, the person already the training part and the individual resilience, the person is mentally strong enough and it will slowly adjust to the environment. But the equally important is the physiological adjustment. As you stay longer and longer in the zero gravity environment, and the body, because more than 70% or 75% of the body, human body, consists of water. Water is a fluid. If I drop a little bit of water on the table, it will splash all around because there is gravity here on the earth. But if you do the same thing in the space, the water will spread in all directions slowly. So same thing happens inside. All our physiological processes are based on the water and the chemicals in the water dissolved in the chemicals interacting with the rest of the system, the tissues, the cells. The cells themselves contain a lot of water. So in the zero gravity environment, it's an entirely new kind of an adjustment. Body has to take it. Or if you see the visible parameters, the bone density goes on reducing. Muscle mass goes on reducing. The blood, normally when you are on the earth, there is a tendency of the blood to accumulate in the legs. And the body has to do extra efforts to keep it back, flowing back to the heart and to the brain. Brain cannot survive without nutrition, without oxygen. The blood supply has to be there and maintained at a certain pressure. Intracranial pressure, slight changes in the intracranial pressure will completely disorient the person and lead to so many other physiological problems. Similarly, the eyeballs, the eye is filled with liquid. Now, again, the same problem comes with the eyes also. There is a blood vision, then so many things going to take place. Now, body will take a long time to adjust back to the Earth's gravity environment after having stayed for 9 months in the zero gravity. So for that, doctors have conducted a lot of research into this area, but even then, it is a risky process. I mean, I would say the risk which she faced in the space environment for 9 months has not just ended with the splashdown. In fact, the risk continues for certain more time, and I'm sure the medical teams are there to take care of any eventualities. So it is a long-drawn process. It may take a few weeks, it may take a few months, but it depends upon individual resilience also and the time spent in the zero gravity environment.
Absolutely. So in fact, if we put it this way, the technical part of it in terms of their return journey has come to an end, and successfully so. But now the recovery process, and probably the more complicated part, in fact, begins as to how long both these astronauts will be taking to recover completely from their 9-month stay in space and then getting adjusted back to Earth. Gentlemen, we'll come back to you and continue this discussion. But right now, ladies and gentlemen, we are quickly taking a short break. Do stay tuned to News 9 as we continue with this constant coverage on Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore being back on Earth.
You work too hard. Work smart like me.
Why? Won a lottery, is it?
You can say so. I'm investing in a great scheme in the share market. High returns guaranteed.
Your high returns aren't Karan Arjun for them to definitely come to you.
Meaning?
Dad, there's risk involved in the share market. Nobody can promise guaranteed high returns. It's illegal to do so.
Really?
Yeah.
What does it take to be the greatest in the world? There is one thing which truly sets you apart. Your inner strength. Sunita DMK Reebok. True inner strength.
For an India that's chasing its dreams, this is the drive of your dreams. Introducing the all-new Skoda Kailak. Own your dream.
Skoda.
Prime Minister Modi and Tulsi Gabbard meeting for the first time in India. Now the question here is, how easy is it to smuggle gold from Dubai to India? Turns out easier than you'd expect. Rania Rao seems to have cracked that code. What we saw now with Aam Aadmi Party in Delhi battling a liquor scam, it seems now Tamil Nadu is the next to fall under scam. with Sunita Williams' long wait that has finally ended. She's all set to come back home. I'm Nabila Jabal, your power-packed hour with news from across India and the globe.
Every brand tells a story. And they are the storytellers, the Sutradhars. They present a brand with band, baja and barat to you. They are the Brandwalas.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. You're watching News 9 and we are covering Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore's successful journey back to Earth on the SpaceX Dragon capsule. With that, we are in fact joined by Dr. Ravi Kumar Gupta, the former director of DRDO, and Dr. National Convener, Saptarshi India Asteroid Search Campaign under IASC, International Astronomical Search Collaboration. Gentlemen, we continue with our discussion at this point. Dr. Vajpayee, I would want to come to you next. You know, when we speak of the Starliner project or the Starliner mission that in fact had several disruptions, complications that erupted, for which they had to come back without the astronauts early in the middle of 2024 itself. Help us understand, where does that very mission stand at this given point? What next for that mission? Some of the complications we know were with the thrusters. There was also a helium leakage that had been mentioned in the reports. So how does NASA at this given point plan on taking on those challenges, and what's the next chapter for them? Dr. Vajpayee, the question was for you, if you can hear me.
Is it for me?
Yes, it's for you. Please continue.
Sorry for the inconvenience.
No
Actually, what really happens is, when we are talking about any spacecraft or so basically within a spacecraft or for a space mission, there are three major portions. One is a service module. That service module basically comprises of your power, your communication, solar panel, and all those propellant tank systems, etc., etc. Then the second major portion of that is the module is the payload module, which contains your scientific instruments. And then the third and the important module is the propulsion system, which actually takes the particular spacecraft or a space mission to that particular location where it is intended to. So, you know, what happened really was, with regards to that Boeing Starliner, in the propulsion system, that helium leakage happened. The helium leakage happened, and out of those, I think out of 28 thrusters, if I'm not wrong, 5 thrusters, they stopped functioning properly. So that really actually affected the control system. So definitely it needs a revamp, and it needs a reprocess of the way in which it has been done. See, we as humans, we are always an evolving, you can say, breed, that I always mention in a jokingly fashion. So we as humans, and I think the scientists and the engineers, they definitely would have started working upon it. What went wrong, and despite all the calculations, and because this SpaceX is that particular this spacecraft which has got, the Dragon has got the facility to dock and undock. So this Starliner basically was being built specifically to compete with the SpaceX in that particular fashion, which actually did not happen, and it has beautifully been detailed in the opening remarks by Dr. Gupta. So definitely all those permutations and combinations will be happening, and then the revisits will be happening, and then we definitely will come out with short success in the days to come.
Absolutely. And you know, Dr. Gupta, coming to you next, when we speak of this very mission, Sunita Williams, during a press conference that had happened while she was in space, had said, when she was asked that what will she be missing the most from her time that she spent there once she gets to return to Earth, she had said everything, and that her journey there or her days there had indeed given her a unique perspective on solutions to problems. You know, the very fact that two astronauts were stranded in a spaceship for as many months as 9 months, it also comes in to, you know, charter a course in history, in the pages of history, make a path in the for scientists out there as an inspiration to astronauts. How big of an inspiration is this to astronauts out there in terms of, you know, the missions that are upcoming in the future times, as to, yes, this is the kind of resilience, this is the kind of grit one needs to show in times like these, in tasks, in taking up tasks like these?
Yeah, very true. And as you have stated, and as Dr. Datta also emphasized, this is a historic event in the journey of exploration, space exploration by human beings. As I said, the space exploration itself is full of uncertainties, and anybody who is moving on path of taking this path has to understand that the life is not going to be a bed of roses. It's full of challenges. Every moment one faces new challenges. Now, having gone through these 9 months of ordeal, and the way Sunita Williams has transformed this challenging period into a period of learning for the human race, more of research into new areas, and at the same time proving that yes, by successfully, how one can face the challenges successfully by keeping a positive mindset. The most important aspect is that yes, there is a hope. One should never lose hope, and that is the key word in any challenge, particularly when we talk of space exploration. What we have ever since the space exploration started few decades back, we have we have traveled a long way. A lot of research has taken place, a lot of data has been generated. We have a lot of achievements to celebrate. But if we take a look from a different angle, the journey ahead is vast. We have just made a small beginning. We are only exploring the space near Earth. We have to explore our entire planetary system. We have to go beyond planetary system. The universe is huge. And in future, the challenges will be much more. So this particular 9-month period, and the way our astronauts, including Sunita Williams, they face these challenges, the way she has come up and given her statements, I think for a long time to come, there will be a kind of yardstick that this is the kind of mental resilience and determination every astronaut has to have in order to become a successful astronaut and conduct the vast amount of research, which is the possibilities are unlimited. Space is an unlimited region. So, but again, I will emphasize what we have done is a very minuscule, in spite of all great achievements. It's a long journey, and lot more has to be done. So, Sunita Williams will be a role model for all astronauts to come in future.
Absolutely. In fact, you know, Dr. Vajpayee, you were also mentioning about 2003 and how that had become an episode and a chapter, unfortunate incident that had taken place back then, but nonetheless, it was an inspiration to millions and billions of people out there when people were watching that very mission. And here we see, after all these years, yet another mission making its mark in the pages of history when we speak of astronauts, when we speak of science and humankind and their technological advancements as well. But you know, I would want a little more detail, Dr. Vajpayee, as to when astronauts are put through this entire training, as to circumstances that might arise once they do get there in space, once they do arrive in space. If you could just take us a little through those details as to how they are mentally trained, how they are physically trained, because there is, as Dr. Gupta was also mentioning, there's a period of quarantine that they have to go through before they in fact take up this very journey.
Sure. So actually, there are different sorts of aspects that are related with regards to the health. And as they have been indicated already, so I just would like to reiterate those facts. So one of the aspects of the health is in terms of a physical health. So because, when a particular astronaut is experiencing that particular phenomena of microgravity, where everything is seem to floating and all those historic pictures we already have seen. So, what happens is to maintain your health amidst those microgravity, because, what happens is officially, if you go to the website of NASA and you just browse through their microgravity articles and all those things, they have an official statement that for every month in space, astronauts' weight-bearing bones, they become roughly 1% less dense if they are not taken proper precaution of. So yes, definitely these astronauts, they go under, you can say, a strenuous schedule before a proper launch, just like our aircraft pilots, that is fighter pilots. It is even more strenuous than that. They are being given proper exercise routine to combat muscle and bone loss in the weightless environment. Astronauts, they engage in special exercises, and then definitely diet is also one of those major factors which needs to be taken care of, because they need to ensure that they are receiving the necessary nutrients and energy for their missions. Then the third important aspect that people they do not really care of, but that needs to be mentioned, is medical training, because what happens is they have to receive extensive medical training during the missions to handle any potential health issue that may arise. Then of course those space suits and spacecrafts, handling them, radiation protection and hygiene, everything, you can say all these things, they are there. Then the second important aspect that Dr. Gupta pointed out in the beginning was the mental toughness that our Sunita Williams and her team, they have already shown. So there is a psychological self-care, relaxation, taking all those, you can say, barriers, making into the opportunities. So the frame of mind, the way in which they are taking it as it is, because they do experience a lot of challenges physically. And as it has been already been talked about, it will take a little bit of time to normalize. So it could be weeks, it could be months. And those of you who are following space science, if you remember those visuals of astronaut Scott Kelly returning from space, he was not able to walk for a period of time because they had actually lost that particular habit of walking as and experiencing all those gravity factors as we do on the Earth. So all these challenges, they are there. So mental conditioning, physical conditioning, it's a dynamic process that not only continues before a particular mission, but on the course of a mission, because they have to de-adjust and readjust while re-entering also, and then on the Earth as well. So it's, you can say, a dynamic process that will continue, that continues in the mission itself to keep themselves mentally and physically fit.
Absolutely. Dr. Gupta, Dr. Vajpayee, thank you so much for joining us here on News 9 today, and indeed simplifying a lot of these details as to how this mission was, what were the challenges that both the astronauts were facing while they were in space, and what a mammoth task it is from here towards a path towards recovery as they have in fact made splashdown on Earth. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we slip into a short break, and on the other side we bring you all other top stories doing the rounds at this very hour.
What does it take to be the greatest in the world? There is one thing which truly sets you apart. Your inner strength. Sunita TMT Reebok, true inner strength.
It's not the fiefdom of politicians. They owe it to the people.
Matter is now more about faith of the millions of devotees than just political slugfest.
Does that mean that I can't get a job in Chennai, although I may be best suited for that particular job? They have more civic sense, they have more of civility than all these men. My name is Sudha Sadanand. Welcome to the South Indian.
Prime Minister Modi and Tulsi Gabbard meeting for the first time in India. Now the question here is, how easy is it to smuggle gold from Dubai to India? Turns out easier than you'd expect. Rania Rao seems to have cracked that code. What we saw now with Aam Aadmi Party in Delhi battling a liquor scam, it seems now Tamil Nadu is the next to fall under scam. With Sunita Williams' long wait that has finally ended, she's all set to come back home. I'm Nabila Jabal, your power-packed hour with news from across India and the globe.
Light, camera, and action. Kick back, relax, grab your favorite snack because News 9 is here with your weekend dose of entertainment. It's time to take a deeper dive into the buzzworthy happenings of the entertainment world. From celebrity gossips to exclusive conversations, from nostalgic moments to News 9's pick of the week, don't worry, we've got you covered here. And I hope you've grabbed your popcorn by now because News 9's page 3 is here to serve you everything that we call entertainment. So do stay tuned every Saturday and Sunday, 2:30 p.m.
This is India's #1 news network, and you're watching